The universe will always encourage you back into alignment. When something feels heavy, draining, chaotic, confusing, or just plain off, that discomfort, it's not punishment. It's an alert from your nervous system saying this is not aligned with the truth of who you are. Discomfort is directional guidance. It's information. It's the universe nudging you back towards your truth through this beautiful communication system that we have on board called our nervous system. So alignment, it's not about feeling perfect or doing anything perfect. It's about honesty and allowing your actions to support that honesty. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grow with Robin Breckenridge. Today, we're talking about something that is foundational to your emotional well-being, being able to have healthy boundaries and live a conscious life. Alignment. I know you guys have heard that word a lot on this podcast, but to me, alignment is truth. The kind that your body has known long before your mind has caught up to it. It's when your actions step in to support the need your feeling is communicating. Because every feeling is a messenger from your nervous system saying, hey, pay attention. I'm trying to protect you. Alignment is the moment you honor that message instead of overriding it. Alignment is when what you think, what you feel, and what you do are all in congruence. It's when your internal world and your external choices finally match. It's when you're not abandoning yourself to keep the relationship, not overriding your truth to avoid conflict, and not talking yourself into situations that your body is quietly or loudly saying no to. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are aligned, you move through life with clarity, confidence, and emotional integrity. And when they're not aligned, you feel anxious, resentful, confused, burned out, or disconnected from yourself, just to name a few. Today, we're going to explore why sometimes alignment feels hard, which part of you can pull you out of alignment, how to know when you are out of alignment, and practical steps to bring your inner world back into coherence. So let's get into it. Remember, alignment is not about perfection. It's not about doing it perfect. It's not about never feeling uncomfortable. And it's not about being calm all the time. It's not about making the right choices all the time. Alignment means that your choices honor your truth. It means that your thoughts aren't bullying your feelings. Your feelings aren't hijacking your decisions. Your patterns aren't overpowering your needs. Your actions are meeting the need that the feeling is communicating. And it means that your external actions reflect your internal wisdom. So I've had people ask me a lot, like, what is alignment? Now, for me, because I'm a feeler, it feels like a feeling to me. Often I run my hand up and down the middle of my body to explain what alignment feels like. But I understand that if you've never really felt alignment in your body, that might make no sense. So to me, alignment doesn't mean that you're without a challenging feeling. It does mean, though, that when we kind of settle into alignment, there isn't a huge emotional charge. Like typically, it just feels a little bit more grounded. So, to articulate what alignment feels like, I think it feels like ease, clarity, groundedness, self respect, and feeling emotional safety within yourself. Misalignment feels like anxiety, resentment, confusion, guilt, overthinking, fear, stuckness, avoidance. Those are just some of the feelings that come up when we're out of alignment. But remember, this work isn't just about understanding it intellectually. It's about dropping into your body as well. So today I'm not explaining alignment just as an intellectual concept. I'm dropping you into your body as well, because your body always knows what's in alignment and what's not. There is so much simple wisdom in your body. And one of the ways that our body lets us know that we're not in alignment, or the universe lets us know, is through discomfort or challenging feelings. Those are the alarms that go off so that we can pause and attune and then have our actions meet the need of that feeling. So the wisdom, it's always in your body. But for a lot of us, we didn't live in our body, or we don't live in our body, because there's a lot of scary feelings in there. And no one ever taught us how to manage, attune, or support the need that's underneath those feelings. And that's why this podcast is here. And that's why I do a lot of this work out in the world, because most of us didn't learn it. In fact, I don't really know anyone that did. If anyone did, please DM me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to have you on the podcast. So there's something that I want to name before we go into how do we get into alignment. What typically happens when we are out of alignment is that we don't seek change. What happens is we develop patterns to tolerate the misalignment. We normalize what hurts. We minimize what our body is communicating. We adapt to dysfunction. We talk ourselves into staying. We disconnect from our needs. We overfunction, over-explain, and override ourselves. And these don't mean that you're screwed up beyond repair. They're just survival strategies. But I want you to hear this. Tolerating being out of alignment is not the same as being okay. It simply means you've built a pattern around something your nervous system is signaling is not in alignment for you. And remember, alignment doesn't mean you never experience challenging feelings. It doesn't mean everything becomes effortless or easy. Listen, if I could figure out a way for this entire life to be rainbows and butterflies, man, I would exhaust all efforts to do it. I don't think that's why we're here. I don't think this is supposed to be always an easy or comfortable ride. I think we're supposed to grow. So let me be clear. Alignment does not eliminate discomfort. It teaches you how to respond to discomfort without abandoning yourself. Because that discomfort is a calling. It's saying, come back home, get back into alignment with your truth. Be the most fully expressed version of you. So that means that when we are aware that we're out of alignment, that you can show up to care for your needs through your actions. Because if love is a verb, then alignment is also a verb. It's how you treat yourself. It's the choices you make. It's the boundaries you hold. It's how you protect your inner child and your inner teen. It's how you have your own back via your actions. So simply, alignment means your actions rise up to meet the need your feeling is communicating. And here's the deeper spiritual truth. The universe will always encourage you back into alignment. When something feels heavy, draining, chaotic, confusing, or just plain off, that discomfort, it's not punishment. It's an alert from your nervous system saying this is not aligned with the truth of who you are. Discomfort is directional guidance. It's information. It's the universe nudging you back towards your truth through this beautiful communication system that we have on board called our nervous system. So alignment, it's not about feeling perfect or doing anything perfect. It's about honesty and allowing your actions to support that honesty. So when you're out of alignment, it usually means a younger part of you has taken the wheel. Maybe it's that inner child that wants love, safety, and closeness. So that part pulls you into people pleasing, staying quiet, avoiding conflict, saying yes when you mean no, and keeping a relationship at any cost. Now, keep in mind, that inner child isn't wrong. That inner child is scared and doesn't know how to get back into alignment. Maybe your inner teen gets behind the wheel, and that part wants independence, belonging, autonomy, and control. So they pull you into defensiveness, over-explaining, trying to prove your worth, perfectionism, avoiding vulnerability. Remember, that part also not wrong, just trying to protect you. But that part doesn't know how to have a healthy protector that keeps us in alignment with ourself. Or maybe it's your maladaptive adult behind the wheel, the part that learned to survive by over-functioning or avoiding. Maybe that part pulls you into overthinking, caretaking, shutting down, overriding your body, doing what's right instead of what's aligned, or working so hard to maintain dysfunctional relationships. Again, that part's not wrong. They're just doing what worked before to get you through the misalignment. So alignment happens when your conscious adult takes the wheel. That's the part that can listen, slow down, check in and get curious with yourself and others. Pause, honor the truth that's in your body, protect your inner child and teen, and make choices from truth, not fear. Alignment is not an accident. It's not a thing people have or they don't. It's internal leadership. It's attuned self-parenting. So here's some top signs that you're out of alignment. Your body says no, but your mind says, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Don't be dramatic. You do things out of fear, guilt, or obligation. You feel tense, resentful, or drained around someone. You feel split about a decision. Maybe one part of you wants one thing and another part of you wants another, and you're in an internal conflict. So let's look at what misalignment really looks like in real life. If the pathway to alignment is getting curious with what you're thinking, feeling, and doing, I'm going to give you some examples of that, but examples that are misaligned. So here's an example. Someone's carrying anxiety in a relationship. I think he might be cheating on me. I feel unsafe, rejected, betrayed, and panicked. What do? He calls me over at 3 a.m. and I drive over. I abandon my need for safety to get momentary relief from the anxiety. Example number 2, maybe it's friendship inconsistency. I think this friend always cancels, but maybe I'm overreacting. I feel disregarded, dismissed, and like my needs don't matter. What do? I laugh it off, pretend like it didn't hurt, and just reschedule. Example number 3, maybe it's obligation over bandwidth. I think I really don't want to go to this event, but I think I should go. What do I feel? I feel dread, pressure, and like I'm stuck. What do? I say yes anyways. I show up drained and I bargain with my bandwidth. Example number 4, settling and dating. I think maybe this is good enough, but it feels like something's missing. I feel disconnected and confused. What do? I stay. I try harder. And I convince myself that it's good enough. Last example, conflict avoidance. I think something's really upsetting me, but I don't want to start a fight. I feel anxious, disregarded, and unsafe. What do? I go quiet. I minimize what hurt. I push it down. So some of these examples might feel familiar to you or might resonate from something in your own life. So now it's time that we invite that wiser, more resourced part of us on board. It's time we invite in that conscious adult. So it's time that we invite the more resourced, wise part of us on board, our conscious adult. Our conscious adult can come in with an aligned action. So let me teach you what I teach my clients and what has saved me on many occasions. I want you to get curious about what you're thinking, feeling, and doing, and then we're going to bring in an aligned action. So you can close your eyes, you can put your hand on your heart, one hand on your belly so that you can connect with your body. You can write this down. You can simply use your fingers, which I've done many times. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I doing? What's an aligned action? But it's time that we get curious. So with any challenge that's going on in your life, you can simply ask a few questions. What am I thinking about this situation? Now, this one, interesting. Sometimes when I ask clients, what are you thinking about this? They will answer it like this. I feel nervous. I feel ... So that's always a dead giveaway to me that someone that I'm talking to is experiencing an anxious attachment wound. We haven't gotten to that yet, but when we're in an anxious attachment wound, we're feeling first. So often those clients will take me right into their feelings, but I want you to hear the prompt in this question. What are you thinking? It sounds like I'm thinking ... Next question. What am I feeling in this situation? Those sound like feeling words. I feel anxious, scared, overwhelmed, confused, not good enough, shame, guilt. The list goes on and on. Now, for some of you guys, you might not even know what you're feeling. And there are some great tools out there to help you. There's something called the feelings wheel, which is awesome. You can Google it and you can use that to identify how you're feeling. Once you identify it, I just want you to write it down or say it out loud. The next question is, what am I doing right now? Now, sometimes people want to answer that quote unquote the right way. Like I'm using the boundary pyramid. I'm journaling about it. And listen, if you're doing that, that is so exciting. Like you're already bringing healthy, aligned actions and tools into the mix. But a lot of times that question is highlighting what pattern you're using. It might be, I'm ruminating. I'm overthinking it. I'm trying harder. I'm people pleasing. I'm saying yes when I mean no. I'm telling myself scary stories. I'm turning on myself. Whatever it is, this isn't about judgment. This is simply about looking at what actions you're engaging in and how they're managing the feeling that you're experiencing. So once we've identified those 3 things, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I doing? We're going to use those as data. Yeah, remember how I said everything's an experiment from here on out? We're collecting data on everything. Well, guess what? That includes you as well. We are collecting data about what is going on internally for you. So what I like to do is I like to look. What was I thinking? Or what am I thinking about this situation? Now, remember, thoughts are interesting, Because sometimes our thoughts are aligning us with our truth. Like, hey, this is what I think. This is my experience of that situation. Sometimes our thoughts don't tell us the truth. And sometimes we can't necessarily trust our experience of things if we're storytelling, if we're attaching meaning to someone else's actions. So that's always something to observe. And sometimes our thoughts are highlighting an unrealistic expectation that might be coming up. So that's why it's really good to continue to use the boundary pyramid and all of the tools that are in this podcast if that's available to you. So you want to just get curious with those and see if you can uncover like what sounds like a truth, what sounds like storytelling, what might sound like an unrealistic expectation. But it's good to kind of get curious with what you're thinking. The most important part of this particular exercise is what are you feeling? Because your feelings don't lie to you. Now, they're always indicating that there's a need. So when we look at the feeling, what we're looking at is, okay, what is this feeling communicating? What do I need here, right? Because if we have feeling words like betrayed, anxious, terrified, confused, guess what? Those are red alert alarms. They are saying, hey, you're not okay. You need protection. You need attunement. You need support. So not that you guys have to be extremely skilled at this, but the more you practice it, the more inner guidance will come up. And if inner guidance doesn't come on board, these are awesome exercises to take into a professional place of support. It's like awesome. You're guiding whoever's helping you, like, hey, this is exactly what I need. Like, I've got these feelings. I have this thing going on in my life. Like, how do I align my actions to better support myself? And then we can look at our actions and go, whoa, that action is not helping me. It might be momentarily getting me out of pain, but long term, it's really not supporting what I need to be able to learn from this experience and move forward. So let's revisit those examples from the beginning of this episode. And let's look at how we can take a situation that's out of alignment and bring it back into alignment. So let's go back to that first example. Relationship anxiety. Now, that first example, just so I can be a little bit more clear, sounds a little bit more like maybe a situationship or like a hookup or something like that. But this person thinks that the person that they're hooking up with, whatever, is not the only person they're hooking up with. What do they feel? I feel unsafe, betrayed, panicked. What do? I drive over at 3 a.m. when he calls me, and I abandon my need for safety to soothe that anxiety momentarily. So what's the aligned action for that? The action that attunes to the need of the feeling? Well, guess what? This person needs protection. So an aligned action could look like pause instead of just reacting and driving over. Get curious with yourself. What do I need to feel emotionally safe? Set clear limits around your communication and availability. In other words, boundaries. Maybe it is time to end that situationship that's not giving you what you need. Maybe it's time to end relationships that give you crumbs and we feel like that's a full meal. But bottom line, what those needs are communicating is protection. You're not safe in that dynamic. Example number 2, friendship inconsistency. What do you think? This person always cancels, but maybe I'm being extra and overreacting. I feel dismissed, disregarded. What do? Laugh it off, pretend like it doesn't hurt, reschedule. An aligned action could be acknowledge your own pattern. Maybe shift this person into shared interest or a different category on the boundary pyramid. Maybe it's having a hard conversation with that person and letting them know that, of course, they are allowed to be human, but something that you need in relationships is consistency and follow through. Bottom line, maybe you just don't abandon yourself this time, because it's perfectly okay to decide that you don't take yourself to relationships in which you feel dismissed or disregarded. That you don't have to take your inner child back to relationships like that and survive. Example number 3, obligation over bandwidth. I think that there's an event that I don't want to go to, but I feel like I should go. I feel dread, pressure, guilt. What do? I say yes anyways. I show up drained. I bargain with my bandwidth. The aligned action, maybe you choose to say yes to things based on your capacity, not your guilt. Maybe you modify how you show up. Maybe you go for a shorter amount of time. Or maybe you politely decline and say, hey, thank you so much for inviting me. It's not going to work this time. And maybe you shift into some self-care. Example 4, settling and dating. Maybe you think, something about this feels off, but maybe this is good enough. Maybe you feel disconnected and confused. What do? You stay, you try harder, and you try to convince yourself that it's good enough. An aligned action could be slow down, pause, get curious with how you feel. Reconnect back with your truth and believe it. And apply discernment that you can step back or say no if a connection requires self-abandonment. So maybe it's a hard choice to say, I've given this some thought. This relationship isn't in alignment with what I'm looking for. And you end it. And I always tell people when I'm coaching clients that are in similar situations, like sometimes people, are like, oh, I don't want to go back into dating. I don't want to start all over again. I've invested time in this. But think about it from a golden rule perspective. Would you ever want someone to be with you because they didn't feel like getting back into dating, or they had invested time in you, or they were too afraid to let you go and be alone? Personally, although it might hurt initially and impact me, I would much rather have someone communicate their truth and not be dragged along in their misalignment. And last example, conflict avoidance. You think something upset me, but I don't want to start a fight. I feel anxious, dismissed, unsafe. What do? Go quiet, push it down, minimize what hurt. An aligned action could sound like ground into your body. Let your conscious adult do the speaking for you, and trust yourself enough to take the risk to communicate what you need. And an aligned action could sound like, instead of pushing the feeling down, that you express that you have a need unapologetically. And then we get data. I can't ensure that when you express your need that the other person will have the capacity to meet it, but you'll absolutely get information on that. And I can tell you that anytime I have had the guts to ask for what I need, even if it wasn't met with approval or the person being able to meet my need, there is some time after the fact where I couldn't believe that I had the strength and the courage to do that really hard thing. And then that means that we're building esteem and we're building self-connection through that challenge. So give it a try this week. anytime you feel like there is a situation that feels activating, that you feel like you might be slipping out of alignment, or maybe you've been there for a while, I want you to consider what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing. And once you use that as information, I want you to really zone in to what could be the need underneath those feelings, and then show up with an aligned action. Remember, not the right action, the aligned action. So remember, alignment is all about truth. It's about honoring your needs without overriding them. It's about letting your inside world and your outside world match. Your power lives in the choices you make when you're deeply honest with yourself. Your freedom lives in choosing alignment over approval. And your peace lives in letting your heart, your body, and your behavior tell the same story. So let me remind you, this work is not for the weak. This is some really brave stuff. If this at all feels overwhelming, put it in your back pocket. Take it to a professional. Try it out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, put it to the side. You might pick it up another time. But I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you next week. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.